right inside your medicine cabinet. You know, when we think about pharmaceuticals, we almost entirely focus on the active drugs, right? But today, we're going to look at the strict World Health Organization guidelines that govern literally everything else inside that pill.
Let me start off by asking you a really fundamental question about the pills you take every day. Whether it's just a simple headache tablet or a life-saving prescription, what actually makes up the vast majority of that tablet? You might actually be surprised to learn that the medicine itself, it's just a tiny fraction of the whole picture.
The reality of how these pills are formulated is pretty wild. The so-called inactive ingredients, these are known as excipients, things like fillers and binders, they often make up almost the entire formulation. I mean, they absolutely dwarf the active pharmaceutical ingredient, or API. And then you just have this tiny, tiny sliver left over for coatings or colorants. Because these excipients are used in such massive quantities, their quality is absolutely paramount.
So, because excipients make up so much of a pill, let's quickly map out exactly how the WHO Good Manufacturing Practices framework keeps these massive quantities of materials safe and strictly regulated. We're going to cover the excipient reality, the danger of impurities, the WHO GMP Shield, the essential paper trail, and finally, the life cycle approach.
All right, Section 1, the excipient reality, the unsung heroes.
So the really crucial point here is that an excipient is way more than just some boring filler used to bulk up a capsule. They actually significantly affect the finished product's quality and safety. More importantly, they dictate the drug's bioequivalence. Basically, this means they make sure a medicine performs exactly the same way in your body, releasing the active ingredient at the precise right time every single time you take it. If the excipient varies even a little bit, the drug's performance varies too. Now, there is a massive contrast between industries here. A lot of excipients are actually produced in huge bulk for the food, cosmetic, or general chemical industries. And in those spaces, specifications can be highly variable. But pharmaceutical excipients, they demand a completely different zero-tolerance level of consistency. The WHO guidelines really stress that to guarantee a clinical batch performs identically to a commercial batch, the excipients just cannot differ significantly. It requires some really intense monitoring to ensure that in vivo performance, how it works in your body, isn't compromised.
Moving on to Section 2, the danger of impurities.
Cross-contamination is, without a doubt, our absolute worst enemy in manufacturing. It's the dangerous, undesired introduction of chemical or microbial impurities into an excipient. And the scary part is, this can happen anywhere, during production, when a sample is pulled for testing, or honestly, just while it's sitting in storage. It is literally the primary risk that the entire good manufacturing practice system is built to prevent.
And why does this matter so much? Well, it comes down to a simple logistical reality. Excipients are almost never refined or purified further by the final drug manufacturer. They're just used as purchased. That means if an impurity gets introduced early on at the excipient plant, it carries over permanently. It becomes a permanent and potentially fatal part of the finished drug that ends up right in a patient's hands.
Which brings us to Section 3, the WHO GMP Shield.
To manage these massive risks, the WHO requires excipient manufacturers to establish a super robust quality management system driven by senior management. And this isn't just a polite set of suggestions. It's a comprehensive system built on having sufficient resources, the right equipment, properly trained personnel. It requires incredibly clear job descriptions so everybody knows exactly what their role is in preventing contamination. Plus, they need ironclad procedures for handling complaints, managing outsourced activities, and conducting regular self-inspections.
Now, the absolute golden rule of GMP is the complete independence of the quality unit. Think about it. The people responsible for testing and releasing a batch of excipients absolutely cannot report to the people whose job it is to push out production rapidly. The quality unit has to be completely independent from production so they can objectively approve or, when necessary, reject batches without any internal pressure, conflicts of interest, or worrying about hitting production quotas.
Section 4, the essential paper trail. So how do these independent quality units actually prove they've done everything right? Through an essential, unbroken paper trail. Let's compare two really critical documents. First, the master batch record. This tracks the highly granular how, who, and when of manufacturing. It logs the exact formula, the specific equipment used, and it even requires the actual dated signatures of the operators at every critical step.
Then you have the Certificate of Analysis. This document proves the final product meets all established chemical specifications, verifying the unique batch number against the actual lab test results. Together, these documents prove that safety wasn't just a goal, it was a documented reality.
The ultimate goal of all this exhaustive, and let's be honest, sometimes pretty tedious documentation, is complete traceability. The WHO guidelines dictate that records must make it possible to trace the complete history of any batch, basically instantly. If there's a quality defect or an emergency, manufacturers and regulatory agencies have to be able to execute a rapid, surgical recall to pull that specific, compromised lot right out of the supply chain before it can harm a patient.
To build an even larger safety net, the WHO mandates 9 common features for traceability systems to really protect these supply chains. We're talking about features like standardized identification, lot-level traceability, and unit-level serialization pairing up with global standards. These interconnected systems are exactly what allow regulators and enforcement agencies to hunt down compromised or falsified products across international borders. It ensures that the paper trail translates into real-world patient protection.
And finally, Section 5, the life cycle approach.
The WHO strongly advocates for what they call a life cycle approach to manufacturing, because quality, it isn't just a one-time checklist. It moves systematically. It starts from initial process design and rigorous risk assessment, moves into strict equipment qualification, where every single machine is proven to work exactly as intended, and it culminates in continuous, never-ending improvement and monitoring. To maintain this validated state of control, manufacturers actually have to hunt for ways to be better. They're required to deeply review the root causes of any nonconformances. They must investigate every single quality complaint, no matter how minor it might seem. And they have to closely conduct trend analysis on the results of their own internal self-inspections to make absolutely sure nothing slips through the cracks over time. So I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder after this explainer. We've just spent this time exploring the intense, highly documented, zero-tolerance world of excipient manufacturing. If the supposedly inactive ingredients require this staggering level of vigilance, independence, and global traceability, how well do you really know what's in your medicine? It definitely gives you a whole new appreciation for the unsung heroes of the pharmaceutical world.